Welcome to episode 6 of the My Enrolled Agent Career Journey. In the last episode, we had our first special guest, and I don't know about you all, I was so excited to actually talk to somebody else about their journey in becoming an EA and just learning about the similarities that we had as far as representation is concerned and the things that were different as well. From that conversation, I had some takeaways that I plan on implementing in my practice, and I hope that you also have some takeaways. In today's episode, I have another very, very special guest. And as we got going and it dawned on me the type of work they do, what time of year we're in, and how busy they are, I am honored to have them as a guest today. So, if you're a member of the National Association of Enrolled Agents, you may have seen this person in the EA Journal a while ago. You may have seen them in the speaker circuit. This person has also been on CNBC 2 different times. They are a recipient of the NAEA President's Award as well as the Excellence in Education Award. So, without any further ado, please welcome Mr. Marc Dombrowski.
Hello, Timalyn.
Hi, Marc, and happy Father's Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Like I said to the audience already, I know you have a pretty busy schedule, so it most definitely is my honor to have you on here. And listeners, if you don't know me that well, I don't say stuff that I don't mean. Marc is a special guest and he has decades of experience with being an enrolled agent. So I'm excited to hear about his story and for him to share some of that with us. Um, Marc, with all of the experience that you have and with the different appearances that you've made as well, I left out that you're also a member of the New York Society of Enrolled Agents. You're a firm owner, a dad, pretty cool guy to follow online. Um,
I tell people I'm pretty cool.
I mean, I think so. I think so. I might be biased, but I think all people that do representation are pretty cool. Of all those different things that you do in the EA space, how did you find out about the enrolled agent designation and what made you decide to take the exam?
My sister, I'm the youngest of 6. One of my sisters is also an entrepreneur person. We're talking, this is in the late 80s. She worked for a gentleman who had just left the Internal Revenue Service, a revenue officer who had just retired from the IRS, not really retired, actually left early. He and another RO formed a company, a representation company here locally. My sister worked for them as an office manager, and she introduced me to them. Now, both of them were EAs by back then. If you worked for the IRS for 5 years and you were in good standing, as they said to me, you check a box on your retirement forms and they give you the EA fairy comes and touches you on the head and you're instantly an enrolled agent so long as you're compliant and all those other things. So that gentleman had me come in. He knew I was looking for some work and he had me do all sorts of odd jobs. One of the first things I did was balance the bank statements of a Dairy Queen that he had purchased from an IRS auction in Bradenton, Florida. So 1,500 miles away from us, he had purchased a Dairy Queen at an IRS auction, seizure and sale. And it was pretty fun. I was 18 and I realized that I loved balancing books. Now that's the last time that I balanced a checkbook was that day back in 1989, just so you know. So that's how I was introduced to EAs. Eventually, in the spring of 1994 is when that gentleman called me because he knew, long story, he knew I was looking for a job again in 94. And he said, I promised myself I'd never hire a non-attorney, CPA, or EA, but I'm going to take a chance on you, Mark, because of all the work you did for me. I knew what kind of worker you are. I'm going to bring you on and have you study for the EA exam, the special enrollment exam. And back then, it was only given once a year for 2 days, 2 8-hour days in
Oh
September.
man.
So it was win it or lose it. So you could only take it one time down at the IRS. I'll never forget when I took section 1 and went out in the parking lot, because you can't stay in the exam room, you have to leave. And there was a woman openly weeping in her car. She had her window rolled down and she was bawling her eyes out in the IRS parking lot. And I know she was a fellow exam taker. So took the exam then, and I'll be honest, I didn't pass it on the first time. I passed parts 2, 3, and 4. Back then there were 4 parts, and I failed part 1 less than 10%. So back then the IRS let you retain that for 1 year. And so I had to pass it the next year. So technically I've only been an EA since 1995, but in the business since then. And that you had asked me the question, when did I get into rep work? And the answer is right away. So even though I did some bank balancing and some literally ditch digging, that was one of the things he always says that I did. I dug a ditch for him. He said, I know Mark he dug a ditch for me, so he'll do anything for me. And believe me, he put me to the task on that. So he was a rep only business. So I started right into rep work. We were not allowed to prepare taxes. We didn't have tax software, preparation software in our practice. The logic was we would go and lecture. And again, I started, and within 4 weeks of me starting, May 17th, 1994, I was lecturing in Long Island about representation to EA chapter meetings. I didn't even know what I was talking about. I wasn't a subject matter specialist.
Not yet.
Not an EA. My boss had us right out of the gate start lecturing in the various cities. At one point, I had 20 jurisdictions, 20 cities, coast to coast, that I would fly around before we had kids. So yeah, I did representation right away. That's back when the IRS would allow us on a 2848, so long as somebody was on the power of attorney as an EA. Other people, we could say, were unenrolled return preparer. It was number H on the 2848, because there's ABC, attorney, CPA, or C is enrolled agent. Back then, the IRS allowed us to do that. But I quickly caught up. It was funny, in the 10 years of that company, no one had passed the EA exam. All the EAs and CPAs were ex-IRS people. So no one had passed the EA exam. I was the first one. And the next year, 2 guys passed it. It's funny. These same guys who worked there for like 5-6 years hadn't passed it. They passed it after I showed it could be done.
So the magic EA fairy didn't get to touch you, but you got to motivate the other folks.
Yes. And when we used to mail out direct mailers from the liens. The IRS would file a federal tax lien. We had people collecting these liens, and we're talking, this stuff was not computerized back then, not much.
Oh my goodness.
My favorite trip was on a Tuesday, I'd fly out to Chicago, meet with clients in Chicago, drive to Milwaukee, stay overnight in Milwaukee, meet with clients, drive 5.5 hours through the Wisconsin Dells up to Minnesota, up to Minneapolis, meet with clients, fly to Denver Friday, meet with clients Thursday night, meet with clients Friday and Saturday in Denver, and fly home. I did that once a month for 2 years. Fly home with boatloads of money. The 90s were amazing. So much money in representation. It wasn't funny. Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You've brought up a few things. First, I did some quick math, 1995, 2025. So you've been at this 30 years now, which is amazing. So I'm going to go back a little bit because some of the people listening to the show, they're not familiar with enrolled agents. They're not sure like if they want to pursue this as a career or not. So if you would just explain like what is representation versus compliance, because some people, I drill it in. I think all enrolled agents should provide representation services, right? That's part of
Mm-hmm.
our right and our authority. But some people get the designation because they think it makes them look better as a tax professional. So I just want, if you would, like I said, explain what representation is, because I don't think people realize there is an opportunity, especially right now with the reduction in force of the IRS, to only focus in representation and not do compliance work.
So I sell sleep. Okay. I help people. It is extremely rewarding for the last 30 years of helping people, even if they don't sign up with me. The
Mm-hmm.
conversations, the phone conversations, the Zoom calls nowadays, all that stuff, the face-to-face meetings in this office, all those things that when you tell someone you're not going to jail, you're not going to have your house taken away from you. You're not going to have your car taken. You're not going to have, they don't want your children. So what my what I'm telling the viewing audience is the amazing amount of fulfillment of life and existentially the whole universe when you help people out of a jam. When you get today, I was talking to Kansas, the Department of Revenue for Kansas, trying to get a 50% wage levy released on a gentleman's pay who just hired us today. So I pushed everything aside and got on the phone and had to fax, email, do all this stuff between the IRS and Kansas, and get on the phone with the Kansas, then customer service, then their collection, and then their law firm. So there's a lot of fulfillment in me being able to say to that person, hey, you're gonna have to pay $350 a month, but I can get this levy released, is garnishment off your pay. So that type of benefit in doing what is an accountant's job. Now you're a negotiator. Now you're a helper. You're a nurturer. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, it is very frustrating. My son has worked with us for over 2 years, and he wears many hats. He is very frustrated by some of the payroll people, the way payroll clients don't seem to understand basic stuff. Businessmen, business people, small business people. He's also getting a taste of representation. I'm like, wait until you really get a lot of representation clients. I've been soft pawing them for you. Wait until you say to somebody, we've got a 30-day deadline. Like I have a deadline with a revenue officer today. I emailed the taxpayer. I said, hey, this is Friday. It's Friday that this whole 433A, the whole financial statement with 6 months of supporting documentation is due. And I asked you last week, crickets. You called me every day until you signed up and got that power of attorney. Well, I told you you had an obligation. I could get this meeting forestalled, but you're going to need to come up with the financial statement. I can't go in your living room. I can help you, but you got to give me the
Mm-hmm.
data. So that, and talking to that revenue officer who is more than happy to deal with a tax professional and not have to deal with the taxpayer. People ask me, clients, potential clients, other EAs, other tax professionals ask me, like, why would the IRS ever work with you? Because I take the case and wrap it with a bow. I am their go-to guy. I am the guy or gal, in your case. We are the people who do their job so they can just sit back, give us a deadline, and wait for the faxes to come in, right?
We get it off their desk.
We get it off their desk, make it so that it's an easy decision for them and their supervisor to resolve this case. It's not always what the client wants, not always what the
Mm-hmm.
IRS wants, but the IRS is not the big bad wolf like they're made out to be. And once you get into this and you understand they're federal employees who put their pants on one leg at a time like everybody else, you can help these people and really do a lot of good. So whether I'm teaching, lecturing for the various societies and groups that I lecture for, if I'm the internet doing different stuff like you, or if I'm meeting with a client or talking on the phone with a client, just helping them in representation is so much better than just prep. I do prep as well. I have a 2,000 return prep, including entities, a return prep here. We have a payroll company here. We
Oh,
have,
wow.
I have a lot of different, I work with the SBA for SCORE. I'm in the Chamber of Commerce on some committees. So there's just a lot of things that I do, including having a family of three, family of five. On Father's Day, it's always good. So that's why representation for me is differently. It's the helping people.
Yeah, I like this story that you shared, because yeah, there are the misconceptions with representation, but I think some people, when they get a taste of prep, they're like, oh, if I do representation, I'll make more money and and I'm like, it is more money. I wouldn't say the actual technical work is harder, but it's the dealing with people. And sometimes we're kind of glorified babysitters of taxpayers. Because I'm like, if
And
they
holder, yes.
have already missed deadlines, I had a guy recently who was like, well, I didn't know I had this deadline. And I was like, this is why I don't let you call me. And we talk via email, because you literally had 2 years and it was always, oh, yeah, next week. Or you get a notice and then I take care of it. And it's the cricket game, the cricket dance.
They think once they sign that power of attorney and send in some money that they are Marc Timalyn's going to handle everything. You don't have to
Yes.
worry about anything. She's magical. She's going to take care of the IRS. And they don't remember. And that's why if somebody ever says to me, you didn't explain that, it drives me nuts, because if anything, I over explain. I over talk.
Yes.
I had a partner, my old partner who worked for the IRS, Joe Cipolla. He's a CPA and EA, and we were partners for many years. Successful relationship. I ended up buying him out and buying Tax Help Associates, and that relationship was funny because he'd say to me, "I can't sit through your interviews because you spend so much time telling them exactly what we need to do. Why do they need us?" And I said, that's how I do it. That's how I present things. This is what you need to do. This is door A, door B, door C. We can help you do these. I think you should go door B. Here's my fee. What do you want to do? I couldn't sit through his interviews because he would just say, okay, give me $15,000. We can do it. And the people signed up. He got bigger retainers than I did. So maybe I was wrong all this time, because I signed more people, but he always got more money than I did. So
That's interesting.
who's the fool?
I'm the same way. It like really grinds my gears. It's like, you didn't explain this. And I'm like, I did. And I've had people tell me the same thing as well. Like, well, why did you just lay that all out? And I tell them, I said, hey, at the end of the day, they're here because they're not going to do it. One.
Right.
And then number two, I was like, yes, I'm like, they're a substitute, that middle person in between the IRS, but this is a partnership. Like, you still have to sign this. I'm just presenting it for you.
Mm-hmm.
I am making you look as pitiful on paper as possible, but I still need the you part.
Mm-hmm. And I always make the analogy, everybody can make a hamburger, but why would we need McDonald's? There are many clients that could do what I did for them. They could get the same results, but I will explain to them how it needs to be done and the finesses. There's obviously many things that we do that are shortcuts that will save a lot of time for a taxpayer to get things done. And it's the same conversation I have with tax professionals. Same exact conversation. I have some friends, I've had friends over the years who rely on me because they know I'm a text away to answer complicated collection cases where I'm like, this isn't just a text. We need to sit on the phone, and this case is bigger than
Mhm.
this should not be your first case. Okay. And it's frustrating sometimes, just like with clients, when I will say, wait a minute, 4 months ago, we had the same scenario. Like this is the same thing. You're asking me the same question, which is fine. I will take that text. I will answer that phone call. I will get on a Zoom call every time because that's me. But my kids, back in the 2000s, I used to drive my two sons back and forth for rowing. So I'd pick them up from
Okay.
school, take them to rowing, take them at 6 a.m. And this enrolled agent, a friend of mine who's passed on, long story, but my son Jack, who was like 15 at the time, said when she hung up the one time, he's like, it's kind of funny. I know how to do an offer in compromise from driving back and forth to crew with you, Dad, and she doesn't. She's like, she's asking the same questions. I know how to do an offer in compromise, and she doesn't.
Children are funny in that way. I've had my daughter tell me that about certain people. They're like, they only call you when they need help with this, and it's always the same question. She was like, "You would tell me. I already told you."
My wife, one of my wife's favorite lines is, after sometimes if I'll take a call in the house, and she'll be like, you actually sound intelligent when you're talking to people like that. Wait a minute. That is the definition of a backhanded compliment, my love.
Well, and I appreciate that you are not like a stuffy accountant, and I will tell you all that Mark does actually know his stuff. So I was sharing this with him earlier. I'm not sure how long we have been connected online.
Right.
Yeah, connected online. What I appreciate about Mark is he does put useful information out there, but he is not your stereotypical um thinks too high of himself. And I share some of his accolades. He most definitely could. But another interesting story about Mark, when I said that, I thought about your house shoes that you wore to the Ohio Society of Enrolled Agents when you came to Cincinnati to teach. Mark
I have
likes to have fun.
I have I am not your typical enrolled agent, that's for sure. I have props. I have props that are only for family parties. I have props that are only for EA and tax parties. Um, as I explained to you, pre-show, we were talking, and I said, well, I'm like this Latino Tax Fest that I'm going to, because they are less stuffy, less formal, which would just
Mhm.
not ensure, or at least take the edge off me putting my foot in my mouth once a day, as I usually do at some more rigid, tax seminars. Because believe me, I have a huge mouth and a tiny foot to put it in. That didn't sound right, but you know what I mean. There's if you give me an inch, I'll take a yard of inappropriate things to say.
I follow. I follow. But it is most definitely good to have balance, especially when working with taxpayers who are stressed by a tax issue. Because, like you said in the very beginning, and you all, I did not pay him to say this. He said it on his own. We sell sleep. We sell. You don't have to sleep on the couch anymore. Your spouse let you sleep in your room again. Like, when I see the impact that doing representation has had, I get far more satisfaction because, with the tax return, like, you saved us money, whoop de woo. But
Here's your refund. Give me my money. Have a nice day.
yeah, to hear people say, like, I was literally sleeping on the couch until, like, we talked with you. We were about to get divorced and we got to keep our house, those different kinds of things. It's just amazing, and to not be that stuffy person
From
to
a
help them.
sales standpoint, because we are salesmen. Again, we're marriage counselors, psychologists, financial planners, lawyers, accountants. We are everything. We're should you buy a car? Should you buy a used car? Should you buy a new car? What kind of all that stuff. My phone brings a lot more in January because of exactly what you just said. Those conversations between either spouses to be or spouses, hey, we're not getting married until you take care of your IRS stuff. There's no way I'm going to marry you because there's a perception of guilt by association that person is
Mm-hmm.
going to take on that debt. And if they're in a community property state, it gets awful gray. So those conversations, just like the gym membership phone calls start in January, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. You're like, I'm going to lose the IRS in 2020 X. So those, it slows down after Thanksgiving because who wants to deal with their problems, the cloud, when it's Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah and all those other things? All that stuff is in there. Why bother with these problems? Same thing why we generally don't have appointments on Mondays and Fridays, because people forget. They want to forget that they're going to come and have a phone conversation or a face-to-face. And if it's Friday in the summer and the sun is out and they took that half day to come deal with their IRS problems, that beach is calling them. So they're
Yes.
probably not going to show up to my office to talk to some geek about why they're going to lose their wages or something like that, or why they haven't filed for the last decade. So yeah, the ability to bring somebody up is a very fulfilling trait that a good representative has. And I when I lecture, I tell them that for a good tax pro, I think, just my 2 cents, what you need is organizational skills, because
Mm-hmm.
they are disorganized. That's why they're in front of you. They're disorganized. Patience, as we've been talking about, these people will test your patience. I didn't know I was supposed to have 3 months of bank statements. Well, what did you think I said? And the third thing is problem solving ability. You need to be able to take that onion, peel it all off, and get to the core of why this person owes the IRS and have them admit it. That's huge, to be able to take the salesmanship and the psychology of being able to lay it at someone's feet where they say, wait, I owe the IRS because I'm not making estimated payments. Which you're 45 years old, you make $450,000 a year as an attorney in Manhattan, and you didn't know that prior to this, that you should make your estimated payments? But I'm not going to judge you. So you can't judge these people. You'd go nuts if you judge these people. So yes, Timalyn, we have a very positive. Even though we are doing this for money, I mean, no two ways about it. We are
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs. You need to be able to get into this industry. You have to have some risk taking, and you need to be able to be a people person. But most of us that would hear this broadcast are persons. I don't know. We're people persons. And you just need to parlay that into helping them. And you can get support. That's a wonderful thing about the internet, about Facebook, about LinkedIn, about this. You have people like Timalyn and myself and many others local to you that will help you, mentor you, help you with those specific questions. Today, I had an enrolled agent from Oregon Facebook message me and then call me while I was walking the dog. We have an office dog here. And had me be a liaison to a Manhattan good friend of mine on a New York estate question. So I knew a little bit, but not as much as my friend. So I was that conduit between helping this very frustrated taxpayer whose brother died in New York, and they have this estate thing that they're working with. The brother had property in Oregon, had property here, just an amazing coast to coast thing resolved in a matter of Facebook messages and everything. And so that all the EAs involved, myself, my New York City, my Oregon based friends, could feel a little better. And I didn't make $1 off of it. Neither did New York. So it's just the way these connections happen. And that's something that you, as a prospective tax pro, could. I'm not talking to you, Timalyn. I'm talking to the others that you
I'm
could
with you.
tap into for free.
Yeah, I
Unless it's
love that
Friday
you
at
bring
5
that
o'clock,
up.
and then I charge. No, I'm just.
Well, I love how you brought that up, the mentorship and then also the network. So, you had that introduction when you were really young. I had the introduction to the accounting world. I worked at a big CPA firm. Didn't know anybody that did representation, but I still had that mentorship side. I had a roadmap still. And a lot of people that I see that listen to the show reach out to me are coming from a space where they don't have that camaraderie or that network.
It's
Your
so
net
important.
worth is your network. Like it really is, especially as enrolled agents, because we can represent taxpayers anywhere in the world if they have a US tax problem.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to reach out to somebody when you need them, and of course you don't want to take advantage of anybody. I'll put that caveat in there, but it's invaluable. And same thing with the mentorship. I always recommend if people have the opportunity to work under somebody who has had the experience that they want to get. So for you, working with the people who got touched by the magic EA fairy, who had worked on the other side of things, that's amazing. I'm going to ask you, I think, two more questions. And you all, I knew this was going to happen. Me and Mark did an episode of Tax Talk today.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I have
it wasn't just
my mug
divorce
right
and
there.
taxes, but I knew I would like talking to Mark. So I think I have to bring him back because I feel like we've gone, it's been good stuff, but I'm like, shoot, now I want to ask him this and I want to ask him that. If this is too loaded, feel free to give me the abbreviated version. You talked
Oh, I
about
like
your
talking. I'm paid by the hour. Okay.
you talked about working for the gentlemen who were ex-IRS
Mm-hmm. Yep.
ROs.
Yep.
How did you transition from that to your own firm?
Very good question. So I started out, like I said, 94, and two former IRS people. Then we also in that practice, which was a fairly large, it was a national represent. As I said, I flew all over the place,
Which is
national
cool.
representation firm. And I that I left in 99. So I
Okay.
had, how do I put this? My the main gentleman, my mentor, became very much a father figure in my life as well. And we needed to step back, as I can joke to his face if he were here right now. I mean, he is still here. He actually is still in the industry. Uh, I would say the best thing I did for our relationship was quit so that we could speak candidly to one another as colleagues and not um, boss and underling. So that I left in 99, and then over a period of about 18 months, I hooked up with Joe Cipolla, who owned Tax Help, and I came in working for him. He thought he needed office management help. He really needed, as I told him, like, it was a 90-day gig. It was a 90-day come in, help me fix my office. He thought he needed the office fixed because he had two sisters who worked for him. One was the office manager and one was the bookkeeper that ruled with an iron fist. They kicked out staff members, mostly young, pretty girls, who they felt weren't going to work in their, not they ruled the office, and they ruled it in spite of what it did. So there was a lot of tension. It was funny. You've got 5 ex-IRS guys and a CPA, and they're all shaken in their boots. They literally brought me in to try to get rid of these two sisters. Just fire them. Why do you guys need me to fire them? Because actually, if we can use them for their talents, because they were skilled, you guys need to expand your business here. You guys need, they needed technique and salesmanship taught to former federal employees. Because as you know, you can work somewhere for the feds, and that can be a detriment. You can be a stick in the mud, work for the IRS, have a huge brain, but never be able to sell anyone. Because we have to sell. I don't care what it is. We have to sell. You have to be personable. You have to be able to sell and convince someone that you can help them and that you're the answer to their resolution. So I came into Tax Help Associates in January of 2000. They extended my contract past the 90 days. And then within a year, he presented me the contract to buy him out over a decade. So I was his walking IRA. I was his walking retirement plan for the practice. And yes, eventually those two females did get either left on their own or I'm pretty sure I because I'm such a bad person. I'm sure I worked them out of the gig. I'm very proud to say that I have several, I hazard to say almost all of my former employees as friends, and some of them are clients. I have heard more than once a year, "Oh my God, Mark, you're the best boss I ever had." So I loved having that. And my wife says, "That's bad. You should hate your boss." I go, "I don't want to be the boss everyone hates."
No.
She's like, "No, you're not doing something right. Your employees don't respect you. Your partner doesn't. Your boss doesn't expect you. Blah, 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 blah. No one." I'm like, "Oh my God, if I need this, I'd go ask my father for his opinion of me."
It was a tense work environment.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So I had to overcome, politics, but every office has politics. Come on. We were talking about that before in the EA Society. So I was the only non-federal retiree at a large practice, $2 million a year of representation work, which to me was a good number in the 2000s. Again, 2000s were awesome for me too. And working with those guys, they were all guys. And I immediately said, "No, I'm lecturing." I never stopped, because when I left my old boss, when I left Jack, then I was really lecturing because I really needed referral clients. If you don't kill it, you don't eat, right? Then,
amen.
then transitioning into tax help, which needed so much administrative work that it took money away from me because I needed to work as a manager. Now I'm a manager of other people, a staff of 5, the core 5 assistants, and then all the guys and the whole structure, which was new to me. I was not a middle manager. So if you had said to me at Buffalo State College, now university, because we have a doctorate program, if you had said to me that I was going to be an accountant, I would have laughed you off the planet. Accountants are geeks. I want to be a middle manager. Like, I wanted to be in hotel management. So I wanted to be, instead of where I am now, I wanted to be a middle manager. Now I laugh at middle managers because I don't know. I mean, there's a place for them, but it's like, anyways. So that representation. So I bought Tax Help Associates over a period of 10 years. So ultimately in 2012, I finished buying out my partner, Joe, and then the practice was all mine to do with what I wanted. And I'm a Libra, so I believe in giving a balance. Actually, 2015 was a very much a low point for me. Okay.
Okay.
I didn't react fast enough to the changing media marketing schemes. I was still on that whole thing that, hey, we mail to people and the phone rings off the hook. Well, that didn't work in 2012, 2013, 2014. Okay. So tax help at one point for an actual employee on the W-2 came down to me in 2015, 2016. So I went from 15 to 10 to 8 to 5. Like my staff eventually worked down where I was paying the guys. I still had 4 or 5 people who were all now self-employed people because they didn't want to leave. I bought a building here actually in the village of Hamburg close to my house. It was a house, but it was a commercial building. And at that point, it was me. The downstairs was a tax practice, technically a competitor of mine. I bought the building from Jack, from my old boss. He picked up the phone. He goes, "Hey, do you want to buy? I know you want to buy a building." And so
there goes that network.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I rebuilt this since 2018 to now. I mean, there's 4 of us. It's not like I have a huge empire anymore, but it's still very fulfilling. It's still 24 hours a day. And I own this commercial building, this huge commercial building, two stories, 4,000 square feet of commercial space, and right in the heart of the village of Hamburg, a historic village of Hamburg. A lot of foot traffic, a lot of visual, a lot of people, a lot of people say, "Oh, I love what you put on a new roof that looks awesome, a new blue metal roof. We love it. We love the landscaping. We love it." And the foot traffic and the people coming in, it's just amazing that getting this exposure. That was the word I was looking for. So I left, and when I left Jack, I had 2 kids at that point, 2 mortgages, 2 car payments. I was making $1.25 W-2 in 1999. I was 28 years old, and I walked away from that. Think about the stress on the marriage.
I can picture it pretty well.
So again, what was it? Cortez burned the ships when he got to the New World. Well, that's what I did with my income. But I have I always paid the mortgage. I always paid the credit card bills. I always did everything. And it's a positive, we as a family took care of things. And I'm here today. It was not easy all the time. And there's certainly steps back before you go forward. But yes, those relationships, the lady in New York City, Phyllis, who I referred to before, I've known her since 1994.
Oh, okay.
And another friend, the first thing I did in Long Island, it was a speech on penalty abatement. And it was in this tiny little Oriental restaurant. And it was like getting into the movie theater. If you wanted to sit, it was a long table with chairs on either side. If you sat in the middle, you had to say, excuse me. Everyone had to stand up for you to get. If you had to go to the bathroom, oh my God, 15 people would have to stand up. I went down to the bar after the speech, and a woman came up to me and she said, "I just want to tell you that was the worst lecture I've ever heard. You were unprepared. You didn't know what you were talking about." She belittled me. I was like Fred Flintstone. I got real small on the stool until I almost disappeared. And she said, "Now that I've told you that, we can be friends." And
wait, was this Phyllis?
No, that wasn't Phyllis.
Okay.
Phyllis is adorable. No, Phyllis is a very nice person. No, this was.
I was like, wait a minute.
A person named Susan, who we're friends to this day. Actually, Susan has a radio show on a local artsy fartsy channel, and I have been on her radio show talking about IRS installment agreements and stuff like that. So yeah, Susan's a good. I just saw her in New York probably 2 years ago at a conference. So yes, these friendships and these relationships, when you go to these conferences, get out of your shell. Don't sit at the same table every time. Bring business cards. Again, you might find somebody on the West Coast who knows about estates, a person on the East Coast who knows about foreign tax, somebody who knows about depreciation, somebody who knows about, I don't know, plazas in New Jersey of, depreciation. You've got to get those friendships going. Maybe because I have my friend down in the Keys who has a boat. Nothing to do with taxes, but I can still go down to the Keys and stay somewhere. So that friend, okay, Jerry Gaddis, Jolly Green Giant EA, who's like 6'50". He was a former president of the NAEA. How I met Jerry was the largest NTPI. 202 people were at NTPI for level 2 that I was lecturing at. And it was day 1. And I see this guy in the back row making all sorts of commotion. He's blah, 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 blah. And he's sitting down and his knees are past the table. Like he's a kid in grade school, or he's a 50-year-old riding a big wheel. And he's like, I go, hey, what's going on? How can I help? And he's like, I just wanted a bagel. That's all I wanted was a bagel. And I was late because he's on, and I know Jerry's my good friend to this day. He's on island time. Okay. He works like noon to 8. He doesn't get up at 7 a.m. to go downstairs and have breakfast and then show up for 7:45 for class to begin at 8. So I went and I toasted him a bagel in the vendor hall, put some cream cheese on it, and I got a thing of coffee and a thing of juice, and I walked out like a waitress and I put it down in front of him, and he and I have been friends since that day. Because he said part of his frustration is he didn't know anybody. He was a new EA. He didn't know nothing from nothing. And here I was showing him compassion and friendship without any expectation of whatever repayment. Well, the bagel, in all fairness, bagel was free.
But I love that because I think sometimes we're like, oh, I'm just going to go for the CE. And then you go straight to your hotel room. And it's like, no, part of the in-person conference is the networking. I'm going to make 2 comments because I'm reserving my last question.
Okay.
But I appreciate your transparency, letting us know that it hasn't always been easy, how your practice unintentionally scaled back in 2015. I think that goes to speak to how we do have to be aware of how different things are shifting when it comes to advertising, getting the word out. But you did also mention something else. In addition to you pivoting, you brought up lecturing. You said, I never stopped that. And you've brought up other things. So, one of the things that I tell people over and over and over again, which is why I love that you have come and like reinforced it as a national speaker. I tell people to get in front of people, you need to become a subject matter expert in what you're teaching. Now, back in the 90s, there was no YouTube. Now, granted, anybody can get on YouTube now. That's a whole nother TikTok. YouTube is scary.
Oh, I have a great YouTube channel story for myself personally that I have to have a beer in my hand while we're talking about it.
Oh no. But I like and I can appreciate the hustle behind, even when you weren't where you started, you still found places to go speak. I tell people, go to SBA, go to real estate brokers, go to people who typically owe taxes where they're in a group.
I had 2 different classes
on taxes.
I had 2 different classes for real estate agents, for new real estate agents and seasoned real estate agents, because they had 2 different types of questions. No, absolutely. And you can parlay that into construction, contractors. The thing, and you just mentioned it, and understand these chapters, whether it's NAEA, NTPI, NATP, all these places are starving for chapter meeting speakers. You're only going to get paid a free dinner, but you're going to hand out 20 cards. There might only be 6 people there, but that might work itself into a webinar. That might work itself into a relationship with somebody there. So that's why when my old boss was you get in front of those chapter meetings, because I knew if I called Rochester, I called Albany, I called the people in Long Island and in Manhattan, they'd say, oh my God, you can talk on offering compromise, you can talk on this other specialty, whatever it is, penalty abatement, we'll get you in. Can you do September and October? So what I can't do is tax update, because I'm not a subject. My joke is, if there's someone in this room who knows less than I do about income tax prep, there's a problem. I mean, we have, like I said, I have a vibrant tax practice, but I certainly am not practicing stuff I don't know about, but I'm not sitting up there and saying and crossing swords with half these EAs in the audience about Schedule D depreciation, or deduction, capital gains. That is not me. I'll fight you on offering compromise procedure or discuss it with you, but I'm not going to be the man with all the brains in the room when it comes to, EIC.
That's another great point, because I think when we see our fellow tax professionals, I'm not naming any names, anything like that, but people are like, oh yeah, you can do this work. Like, you have to do clients who owe 6 figures or what have you. If you're just starting out, that shouldn't be your first client. Teach on installment agreements, no installment agreements, in and out. And like I said, target the people that you know are going to owe. Truckers almost always owe. You can find their associations. Like, oh my goodness, everybody in this brokerage has tax problems. Will you please come?
Restaurant that got audited for tips. Well, I guess that doesn't happen anymore, right?
We'll see.
I got into Smith and Walensky, a huge Manhattan-based restaurant. I mean, not huge, but heck, when I ate dinner, I sat next to Rick Moranis. He's the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Ghostbusters. I could have grabbed his bread. He was so close to me. That's cool. How big of a restaurant this was. And I probably had 7 or 8 waiters as clients over a period of 5 years. Because the IRS audited them, and they stipulated out for what their percentage of tips were, and it didn't work. They did an analysis on a Saturday night when people like me are drunk. It's a $200 tip. All right, here you go. Well, some of my clients worked the lunch hour, where you just walk up to the counter, you grab a sandwich, and you leave. There's no tip. There's a $1 tip if there is. So, like I'm not getting into casework, but my point is, you get into exactly what you're saying. You get into something, a niche, bakery club. I don't know what it is.
There are people who are like, you're going to talk for free, that are giving you the opportunity to build that know, like, and trust in a 30-minute speech. Somebody's going to call you.
Yeah.
That's where you practice the salesmanship. Again, Mark, I appreciate you being here. I probably will be pulling your coattail to ask you to come back, just because I like to talk to you, even if the audience doesn't like our conversation.
You're very easy to talk to, Timalyn. I said that back when I saw you were lecturing in Florida, right? And
yes,
and we were both there. You said, well, I'm scared because you're out there in the audience. Like, you shouldn't be scared. I should be scared of you. You're the young talent. You're taking my work. Good for you.
Y'all see, so here's the thing. I was teaching on a certain platform. They told me I could teach whatever subject I wanted. And the beautiful thing about this platform, I would get paid, and whatever I taught, they wouldn't let anybody else teach. So I was like, awesome. Like, people aren't out here teaching representation. Every representation topic that I pitched to them, they were like, we already got that covered. So I was like, who else is doing this? I go look and I see Marc Dombrowski. And I'm like, who is this guy? See a nice headshot. Then I go on Facebook.
It's all done
We're
with mirrors.
connected. And I'm like, the guy with the cowboy hat is the one taking all these representation classes from me. So then, fast forward, we both spoke at the Florida Society of Enrolled Agents annual conference. It might have been last summer. And I
Yeah.
actually got to meet Mark face to face. And we had different parts of representation in the workflow process. But I see this guy who's beating me out for all these classes, and then he's right before me before I teach for 4 hours. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be a tough act to follow. But just like he is here today,
Oh, I'm
he's
sure
very
they wanted to sit
easygoing.
there and watch you as opposed to me. Come on.
He was very easygoing and easy to talk to. And like I said, we got to do tax talk today after that. Um, Mark, my last question. If you could do anything in your EA journey all over again, what would it be?
Hmm. 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 Oh, wow. Hmm. I I I might have, boy, I might have stuck it out at my first practice. Um I say that it is very it's personalities. I don't regret what I did, but if I could change it, if I could have stayed at the first practice and been able to live or been able to stomach
The
the
politics.
procedure and that, well, there was one king and that was it. There really wasn't there weren't politics. There was no politics involved. Let's think of what's going on in the United States today. There's just one king. And but so my point is, I think, and I did still, like I said, I still maintained that relationship with his children, who are also part of his practice. We're friends. All of us are friends today. Um, I would say that if there was a magic way of being able to manipulate the boss so he wasn't, so that I could work with him and not butt heads, I
Mm-hmm.
would prefer to have kept that relationship. I would have preferred, I would be running that multi-million-dollar company right now and happy. When I quit, he said to me, this is completely out of the ordinary. Like, not, this is completely out of left field. I wanted you to marry my daughter. I'm like, well, I'm married now, so I can't do that. He's like, I wanted you to take over. I wanted you to marry Jennifer. And I'm like, I married happily to Jacqueline, and I'm still to this day. And so like I said, he has his list of so his joke that he tells everybody about the first time he met me was my sister had coached me on how to interview. Again, I was 17 when I took my first job with him. So I had like a little steno pad, one of the ones you'd put in your pocket, and I had
Uh-huh.
written like, say hello, shake hand firmly. Like, I wrote like basics. And he goes, what are you reading from? He goes, give me that. So he's like reading it. He's like, this is hilarious. Like, so I still have that steno pad to this day. And he
It's
still jokes
funny.
about it when we talk. He's like, well, Mark, how are you going to shake my hand firmly? How are you going to make eye contact? Yes, make eye contact. So, um,
You
again,
could
that
probably sell that now to current college
I could,
students.
the crap that I've saved in this office that my wife wants to, when I die, my wife is going to come in here with a flamethrower when, like, the EA Society should be selling this stuff, for at least 40 cents per unit. So anything to do over again, and it might not translate into the audience look, because quite frankly, and I've said this to my old boss, I was almost sick going to work. I mean, again, who walks away from that kind of money and that kind of, when you have those kind of obligations? We all do it from time to time, whether it's a big
Mhm.
client that you just can't stomach. I couldn't handle, and I'm not like that. I have a very big leeway. And I, like I said, the best thing I did in my relationship was quit. I guess now if I could have stayed on somehow, I would. I think that the relationship would have. I think I'd be, and I could reach more people with his money and do more things. But I do love. I guess the last thing I would say is I would have built a pool for my kids sooner in my EA career. Get that pool for your kids now, people. Don't wait.
Well, again, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hope that people actually go back and pick up some of the gems that you were dropping, just about like getting the exposure, even the thing that you would do over again. Sometimes we make rash decisions that when you look back is like, man, if I could have held on a little bit longer, um, you still have the same wife, but you may have a bigger practice. Right.
And all the
Mark,
money, where did the money go? When I think of the money I made, where did that money go? Like if my son said I'm going to make, I'm like, where's that money? My daughter's a police officer now, and my wife is banking. She has a bigger savings account than I do, and the girl's 23 years old. If I had banked that money, of course, not having any expenses does help, that kind of thing. But anyways, and she can shoot people or at least tase them.
you're doing a different kind of save today.
I'm right.
Before you get off, if anybody's interested in connecting with Mark on social media, scrolling across the bottom, Mark J. Dombrowski EA is where you can find him on both Facebook and LinkedIn. In the show notes, Mark has a lot of cool things going on. I'll also have some links with other projects and things that he's working on and doing. Mark, again, happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you.
Safe travels, and I know you're going to have a blast at Latino Tax Fest. Maybe we'll get to party there together one year.
Yes. It'll be. I'm sure I will run into the young talent again and again and again. I'll say I knew her when I'm carrying your bags into the hotel.
Oh my goodness.
Timalyn, remember me? Remember me? She's like, what's that voice? I hear some little voice.
No, I wouldn't forget you for the things that you've done in your online presence that you know about and that you don't know. But thank you again for being here on the show, and we will
Honor.
connect soon.
Thank
Bye
you very
bye.
much.